this is the video that you have been looking for. We're gonna go from this to this. Now, there's going to be a plethora of different techniques. Yes, I just said the word plethora. There's going to be a plethora of different techniques that we cover in this video. I'm going to try to keep it compact and very structured for you guys and very step by step to show you how we go from the stock, not the stock footage, but the raw B-roll footage that came out of my phone camera to basically what you see here. And yes, you did hear that correctly. This is a quick little real estate video that I did for a friend, and I shot it on my phone with a little DJI gimbal. And it's very simple, not expensive equipment at all. You can get very steady, smooth shots like this, and they don't have to look perfect or super luxurious right out of the phone. But as long as you use a nice wide lens, use that 0.5 wide angle lens and a gimbal, and you're gonna have perfect footage. And the beautiful thing about all the things that we're learning in today's tutorial is that you're going to be able to apply it no matter if you're shooting for a restaurant, if you're shooting for a real estate agent, if you're shooting for a product or something like that, if you're shooting a little drink bottle or a wine glass or a plate of food, or if you're doing a wedding video montage or anything that you're basically doing for any kind of client work. If you're gathering B-roll footage and that footage is very steady and shot with a gimbal, you're going to be able to do these really cool transition music edits that you guys are seeing going viral all over TikTok and Instagram. And I do want to brace you guys for the ride that we're about to go on. This is about to be a bit of a longer tutorial video. Again, I'm going to try to keep it compact and short and sweet, but for the most part, you guys are going to see me kind of go very in depth into all the things I'm doing on the timeline and things like that. So if you guys are looking for a quicker, kind of quick 5-minute tutorial and things like that, I do have a speed ramping tutorial that is already available. It only takes you like 5 minutes to learn how to speed ramp. And that is going to be one of the techniques that we use very prominently in this video. I'm going to go a bit more in depth in this video and show you how to apply it to a few different situations. But I promise, stick around to the end, watch the whole video, kick back with me a little bit, relax. And I think you guys are going to be well off for it because you're going to have a lot of different techniques that you can apply to all these kind of videos, all the viral music that's going around on Instagram. All right, so before we kind of unpack what's going on this very jumbled mess of a timeline here, I'm going to quickly show you the first example of the video that I showed you, the one that doesn't have all the fancy edits going on, but it still is kind of edited to the beat. And it looks professional, it looks nice, it looks clean. There's just nothing really fancy about it. So you guys can see the video playing here behind me. It may or may not be playing the sound, I'm not really sure. But anyway, basically all that's going on is it's a bunch of very clean B-roll clips, and I've just sped them up and timed it so that each kind of lines up with the markers of the beat. And that's it. It's very simple. I didn't do any color grading to the footage. I didn't do anything special. I didn't stabilize anything or add any kind of effects. I just trimmed the beginning and end of each little B-roll clip, and then I sped them up to match and kind of fit within the, segments between the beats of the music. So you guys can see that on the timeline right here. This is that same exact video, and you can see it's just a simple push in on the gimbal, pull out, and then cut to the next clip, which is a kind of pull out in a bit of an arch, and you're revealing the house from the driveway. And then you take that same clip, reverse it, and then you end up with the push in. So you don't actually have to shoot the clip twice, although it is good if you're going to be doing the filming yourself. Always kind of get in the habit of just kind of shooting way more clips than you need. So if you're going to pull out on an object and you want to shoot like a little drink bottle, for example, and you're going to get a pull out, make sure you also get a push in as well. And you can go beyond that. Make sure you go, side to side and get a strafe, or you go up and down, or you go kind of in a crescent moon shape. And that way you can really play around and use the different shots and kind of pick how they're going to flow into each other when you get into the edit later. So you guys can see as I'm just scrubbing through, it's exactly as I described it. Each clip is just sped up. You can see this one's like 3.5x speed. There's no fancy speed curve or anything going on. It's just a standard speed up. And you can see, that's why the motion isn't quite as fluid and as smooth as it is in the final, heavily edited version. But this is what I would call like the minimum passable kind of quality that we want to put out. And it might actually be in some cases where you're working with a real estate agent, for example, and they're shooting something like a really nice mansion or a really luxurious restaurant, for example. They might not want all these flashy, kind of gimmicky looking edits. And while those things do catch your eye and really kind of get you to stop the scroll on social media, it's always good to also maybe provide an alternative version that is a bit more dumbed down, a bit less visually graphic, intense. So I'm really not saying that one of these two versions that we're covering today is right and the other is wrong. That's not exactly what this video is about. We're going to kind of learn how to make both versions, and you're going to need to know, what circumstances and what client is going to kind of prefer which style. Do they want all the flashy effects, and are they going for the views, or do they just want something that's on brand and represents the brand accurately, but still feels clean, put together, tight, professional? So before we move on to the really fancy and fun version, I'm going to show you guys how to kind of bring these viral sounds and audios from Instagram into CapCut very easily. So open up Instagram on your phone, find the audio that you want to use. You click on it. This is the one that's actually for this video right here. So you're going to go ahead and copy the link to the video. And now you're going to go down to the description, click the link to the realsave.app Instagram to MP3 converter. That's the site that I'm on right now. You're going to go ahead and paste the link to your reel in there. Make sure you download it. And then once it's finished downloading, make sure you click the blue download audio right here. And you're going to go ahead and download the audio. So once you bring your music in here, if you had it all in one piece and not chopped up like this, but just for the sake of the example, you go ahead up to beats 2. And that's what's going to give you the markers on all the beats. And you can very easily just fit all of your pieces within there. And you can see that's what I've done. This one fits right within these two here. That fits within this one. This one is like a double extended. So you're just playing with the beats and matching the clip sizes to the beat. But very important not to adjust the size of the clips like this. Once you pick the start and the end point of the clip, you want to maintain that. So make sure you're actually adjusting the speed with these white dots on the top by clicking speed. And that's going to keep the end point the same, the start point the same, but you'll speed up the clip to actually fit within the music. Also, if you're on CapCut, a great trick is to go up here on all of your clips, even if you're using a gimbal already. If you just have these nice little B-roll pushes and pulls and all that, go ahead and stabilize all the footage. You're going to have to do it one by one, kind of wait for it to load, but definitely something that you want to do. And you can also take things up a notch by clicking this relight button and then using either the warm, which will look like this, and you can actually turn the intensity down a little bit so it's not so overpowering, but that kind of gives it like a warm sunset kind of look, even though it's 3 in the afternoon. Or you can use the morning light right here as well, but I like to stick with the warm light, so we're going to stick with that. And you would just apply that to all the clips, because obviously it's not going to match if you don't. So again, that's what we would do if a client, for example, says, hey, I don't want all those fancy visual effects and all that. I want to keep it a bit more dialed back. We would deliver something that looks like this. And you can still go ahead and dress this up with some sound design, with some sound effects and things like that. But for now, let's move on. All right, so once again, let's play the fancy version with all the crazy effects. You guys can see it one more time what the final product is going to look like. And I probably had to cut that short because I don't want to get a bunch of copyright strikes on my video. But you guys get the point. There's a lot of effects going on. It's kind of blending. You guys can see here on the timeline now. It's kind of meshing from like AI art into reality. And that's a really cool effect that I like to do. Sometimes it's a bit over the top. Sometimes it's a bit unnecessary. But when you use it right in the beginning hook of the video, it really does catch your eye, especially if you just kind of melt from AI into real life, into the real video. It looks really cool. So I'm going to teach you guys how to do that. It's with a program called Go Enhance. And you guys will see a link down in the description to go ahead and get to this page right here. Once you make an account, you should get like 30 or 40 free credits. And that's going to allow you to create a video or two for the sake of this, maybe one example. But once you make those 2 videos, you're going to have to pay in order to use this. But you would click on video to video there on the sidebar. And then you're going to upload whatever, video clip. You guys can see the previous ones that I did right here. And you upload those clips into here, and you can pick an art style. So I like to go for pop art right here. That's the one I've been using a lot. You can change your video duration. Basically, you want to have it at least 2 seconds, or it's not going to be able to register or actually make the video for you. But basically, leave everything unchecked. You probably don't have a pro account. So just drop the video in there and generate it. It's going to take a minute, but once it's done, you go ahead and drag it into your CapCut. And now once you're here, you take your clip that should match. Basically, it was the length of these 2 clips combined. And I just marked my video by using the I key and then using the O key to mark this segment here. I uploaded just these 2 clips here. So it's just the push and the pull of the lion. And I kind of downloaded that as its own clip. That's what I dropped into the Go Enhance. And then now I place that Go Enhance right on top of the, clip that it's actually mirroring. And then you just add a fade out animation so that it will fade out and kind of blend into reality. And you guys can see here, I have another layer on top of that. And what that's doing is actually cutting out the lion. So I cut out the background of the lion with a custom removal. I brushed him up and I cut him out. and that allows me to place the cinema effect as well as the Project D Media Group kind of title all takes place behind the head of the lion. Just looks a little bit more professional, a little more high quality. And again, same thing here with this next clip where I'm pushing and pulling out of this house here. I actually cut out the house, so the agent's name, Realist Agent Day, that will kind of pop up behind the house and kind of tuck away behind it. So again, and for that, I'm just using the remove background, custom removal. I take the brush here, smart brush, and I brush out this whole kind of everything you see within this outline. And then I added this kind of hand-drawn stroke around it, and that's what gives it the outline. Now, before we keep moving on, I just want to kind of dissect everything that's going on here from start to finish, because you guys can see the beginning of this video is not how the actual example that I showed you guys started. So believe it or not, every clip that you guys see that we've been working with so far is actually a part of a single take that I did walking around the whole property. So all I did, I placed the phone in the gimbal, I flipped it upside down, I held it nice and low, and I just did a nice steady walk around the whole property. I tried to do a couple little pullbacks and pushes in, and I tried to focus around certain things and whatnot and be creative with it. But I just did a single take around the whole outside of the property. The reason we don't have indoor footage is because the power company literally shut the lights off the day we came to film. So we're going to have to go back and get the indoor footage. That's how these things kind of work. But we do the most with what we get. And with this outdoor footage that I got, I managed to kind of create like 2, 3, 4 separate reels out of it. Some of them have these AI effects. I gave different versions that don't have the AI effects. I gave basically just the single take walkthrough by itself. So this beginning segment here is literally just the entire walkthrough of the property in one take. And I use some speed ramping to ascend. You're not going to see it because I have to uncompound the clip. And again, you guys will learn more about that if you go ahead and watch the speed ramping tutorial. You'll learn all about compounding the clips and what that does. When we're working with these little B-roll clips that are just a second or two long, it's going to be a lot different. You can just go up to the speed curve and basically choose one of these curves and play around with it. You mirror the flash ins and the flash outs, put them right next to each other so you get a nice transition. But obviously with one long single shot like this is right here, we're basically just focusing on this shot right here. This is the original shot that came right out of my camera. It's one single take, and I chopped it up into all these bits and pieces to get these different B-roll clips. And you guys can see here, I basically place it over the music, and as the music is playing, which you can't hear right now, but as it's playing, I'm manipulating this speed curve. So as it goes higher, the footage gets faster, and as I drop the dots lower, it's going to slow down. So you can see when I choose for it to speed up and when I choose for it to go slow. And again, how do I know when to slow it down, when to speed it up? Well, I'm just watching the footage, right? Right here, I reveal the house. So I want to slow that down. And then I speed up as I'm kind of moving to the next reveal of the house. And then it slows down again. So you're just using the footage, using common sense to kind of understand where and when to drop and lower your curve. So for a nice long single take shot like this, you can start with a montage. And then you just add or delete different dots to kind of customize it and make it your own curve. And then when it's done, you want to fit it into a specific, segment of the music, or you want to fit it right before the beat drops like I've done here. You're going to go ahead and compound the clip, create compound clip, and then I drag the standard speed of the compound clip. I drag that to fit my music. So now that entire single shot take is not getting cut short, but rather the whole thing is just going to end perfectly on the beat and drag you into that line, pull you right in. So again, whether it's a wedding, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's like FPV drone footage, right? You guys have to think like all these things that are trending on social media right now, all these different pieces of equipment that people are using, people are trending more towards using like DJI gimbals and pockets and all these fancy little GoPro cameras and drones and things like that. So you're going to have a lot of these pieces of footage, whether it's for a restaurant, a real estate agent, again, the list goes on. And it's just going to be a single shot, kind of walkthrough of the property or something like that. And you're going to have footage that looks very similar to this. So speed ramping it is super important and gives it that flair, that flow. And you can add some motion blur even just by clicking, going to basic, scrolling all the way down. You add some motion blur. And now during the parts where it speeds up, it's going to give you a nice kind of blurry tunnel effect. And this is how we're maximizing our footage, right? We have one piece of footage to work with, one single shot take of the whole property, and I'm basically chopping it up, minus the lion and the front door, which are separate shots, but all the rest of the shots here are all little segments from that long single shot take. So that's your job as the editor to go ahead and identify all those little segments that you can chop out and make into their own little clips. You get those, you gather them up, And now you're just doing the same thing as we did for the first original version. You're just marking them down to the beat. But instead of just going ahead and using your standard speed and just speeding them up without any flare or flow, we're going to use speed curves this time, which is going to add a speed ramping effect. And again, that's the video that I keep talking about. Going to be linked down in the description, and it's going to pop up at the end of this one for you guys to go ahead and watch. Speed ramping is super important, and it's how I get this really smooth pull and then push out. And it kind of slows down and goes slow-mo when you get close to them, and then it pushes out. So that's how you're going to basically use speed curves to create that effect. So I will show you guys very quickly how to do the speed ramp on just this little push in and pull out right here. It's very simple, but I want you guys to go ahead and watch the 5-minute video that I did, because it will give you kind of the full understanding of when to use a speed ramp, how to match it to the music, and all that stuff. But basically, this is what we have right out of our camera. I'm just walking towards the lion, and then I'm pulling back and walking away from it. Very simple. So very simple. You want to go up to speed, click on your clip that you want to start with, go to speed curve, and now you're going to start with a flash in. And once we have our flash in, we drag our top all the way up to 10x. We get rid of this dot right here. We only need one of them, and we'll drag it over. And that's going to give us a very smooth speed ramp into a slow-mo right there. And you guys can kind of get the picture here. What we're going to do is just the exact opposite on this side. So for this one, we'll flash out and do the same thing. We'll drag the ending up to 10x. We'll get rid of this dot here, and we'll drag this guy over. And now you can see how we transform this very simple push and pull into something that looks very dynamic and really kind of sucks you in, pause, pushes out very smoothly. So again, when you match that with the music, you add some motion blur. That's how you wind up with something that looks like this. Plus, you know, the fancy Go Enhance AI effect. Little lion roar, you get something really cool. This little text effect here is very simple. You just use your kind of preferred font, which I use Resolve a lot. That's my kind of favorite font that I like to use. And the animation, go to in, and you get, you know, take your pick. You can do a bunch of different things, and they're all going to look really cool, especially when you tuck it behind the subject's head like that. You get a really cool effect. Now, again, one thing I want to stress before we kind of wrap this tutorial up is the sound design is going to be crucial to achieving a really high quality feeling edit. If you have all these visual effects and things popping up on the screen, it feels very amateur if there's not really, you know, well composed sound design to go with it. You want to use very airy and light sounds that have a lot of reverb, and that means that they just kind of like fill the air. Very whooshy sounds and windy sounds and stuff like that. You can use snaps and bells and things like that as well. And also little risers, like metallic risers that go... I know I should be like a voice actor or something. I'm so good at mouthing off these sound effects. But the next thing that's going to be super important, and if you're not doing it right, it could, you know, kind of hinder you from getting a really clean result like this. And again, it doesn't matter what kind of footage you're working with, what kind of industry you're shooting footage for or editing footage for. The key is to just chop the footage and make sure you get the right part of the B-roll clip. So you can see another shot here of the lion, and it just flows so smoothly into the next shot. So all I've done is I've taken this one shot, I've stabilized it, and then I've duplicated it and reversed it. So it just goes and kind of bounces back in reverse, and the speed ramp is what gives it that really smooth transition. Same thing for this one here where I'm arching around the planter. It really flows nice into the next shot because it bounced. Well, you're not going to see it with my timeline lagging like that, but it flows very nicely into the next shot because this is arching around the planter, and this is a shot with the same exact arch going in the same direction, but just a different subject with the pool now. So it flows very nicely in the final edit, which you'll never see on my laggy ass timeline, but you get the point, right? Match up the different movements to each other. If you do a push, maybe the next shot should be another push or a pull. And then if you do a shot that has a arch motion, try to line that up with another one that reverses and bounces it back in the other direction. And then another arch motion where it flows and circles into something else. Lining up the different corresponding camera movements that match one another are going to give you these really smooth kind of in-camera transitions. And you guys can see here, I don't have a bunch of transitions added to my project. All the transitions between the clips are done with the speed ramping, with the motion, the movement, and the sound as well. The sound is crucial and very important. All the little flame sounds and the walking on the leaves and all that stuff it really adds to the visuals that you're seeing. So I don't want to keep beating a dead horse. I think we kind of got through the majority of the different techniques and stuff like that. We learned the different AI transitions that we can kind of melt from AI art to reality. We learned the speed ramping again. We learned the motion blur that we can add to all of our clips. Once they're compounded and speed ramped and put into place with the music, you go ahead, add some motion blur. It's going to look really nice. Use that relight technique that I taught you guys, because that's going to add such a nice warmth, sunset kind of feeling to all your footage if it doesn't have it already. If you're not shooting this beautiful, colorful sunset and you just got like a plain blue sky, especially if you're doing real estate footage and things like that, I think it just looks really nice. Any kind of social media videos and things, these CapCut features work very well to just catch your eye and be very vibrant, and they pop very nicely. Oh, one more thing that I did want to teach you guys, little bonus, hopefully, if you kind of stuck around to this point, was the cutout transitions. I'm going to have a separate video that goes over this in more detail like I did for the speed ramping. But real quick, just as a little kind of treat for all you guys that stuck around this long, I'm going to show you guys how to do a really cool cutout transition that looks something like this that you've seen in like all those fancy car videos. So you guys see how the wheel just kind of like slides into frame and then it transitions into the next shot? So you can do something very similar with this lion right here, for example. So let's say I duplicate this clip and just make a duplicate right on top of this nice little arch. And I'm going to go to the very beginning frame of this clip, make sure I'm on the first possible frame of it. And then I'm going to go ahead, click it, go here and freeze it. And that's going to give me a freeze frame, or basically just a still image. And I can manipulate this to be as long or as short as I want. And the important thing about this still image is that it's the first frame of this second clip here. So we have our first clip of the lion, and we have the second clip of the lion, which maybe this wasn't the best one to do it with, since the one right before it is the same object. So hold on. So just to kind of show you, that was actually good that I made that mistake there, because I can show you the versatility of this little transition. You can do it with this whole freaking house here, for example. So if I just duplicate this clip, same as we just did, we'll freeze it. So we have our freeze frame. And now you're going to ignore this little kind of duplicate that you made. You don't really need that. You just want the freeze frame. And we're going to take this and we will chop it so it's a bit smaller. We can kind of manage it a little bit better. And again, you can drag this to be any size you want. It's a still image. And we're going to make sure we bring it to the previous clip. So it's not actually going to overlap the clip that it, is of. It's going to come before it on top of the previous clip. And we're going to make it maybe, this big, for example. You can line it up to the music so that maybe on one of the snare drums, you'll see it appear and pop up. And then on the next snare drum is when the video kicks in and the motion starts. So you guys are maybe getting the idea of how this effect works a little bit, but we're going to remove the background. We can take the custom removal brush and we just kind of brush out the whole house here. And if you use the smart brush, you can be very sloppy, and it should pick up very well what you kind of wanted there. We apply it, and now you guys see it starting to take shape here. So if it just came in like this, it would look like that, which is, again, very laggy with my computer and my timeline. But you guys can definitely get the gist and see what's going on. We're going to take this, and now we can add some even more movement to it. You can add an animation, so it will like fade in. It will kind of wipe itself in. I like this one that does, it might be focus. But focus is cool because you could add like a little magic appear sound effect, and then it will just kind of phase itself in and go like that. So that's how you get really fancy and do some of these more professional looking transitions that look like they came from like After Effects or something. You can do them right here in CapCut. You can do them on something like DaVinci Resolve, for example. It's going to work the same. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. I think we kind of covered most of the bases. You guys should be able to put together a video that looks just like this, again, for real estate, for any of your clients. So thanks for watching, guys. Click right here and you guys can check out that speed ramping tutorial. You're going to learn how to do it in just 5 minutes.